Hey guys, I want to jump on here and share a little story with you guys. I'm sure someone understands it, needs to hear it. But I think we all understand that God will provide, right? That it's pretty much His will. If you're doing what's in His will, He will make sure His people are taken care of. Um, Now, it's one thing to think it; it's another thing to live it, believe it. This was very much amplified during COVID for my wife. She's a corporate event planner, very godly woman, Christian, but she kind of got to the point where she built this amazing business. And that's in her mind was she built it. It was her designs. It was all this stuff, right? And then COVID happened, and as you can imagine, people weren't doing corporate events. Hundreds, if not thousands, of people weren't getting together any longer. And she instantly started tumbling through the five stages of grief. Sometimes she'd go through them 12 times a day, 12 times an hour, 12 times a week. And I remember handing her a John Maxwell book, a small one, How Successful People Grow. That really started her new personal development at that moment. It was very instrumental. It's kind of interesting how things work. But as we were coming on the backside and the EVIT started coming back, we're getting a year and a half after COVID. That's one thing she really, come to realize. Like she may have done the work, right? She may have designed it, but it was only, the tools, the gifts that were given to her by God. Like, granted, we can't just sit on a couch, play PlayStation, and just because God has given us gifts that He's going to provide all this wonderful stuff. That's not how it works. Like, we bear some responsibility in taking action, but it's not our responsibility that is successful, right? Um, but we had this year, it was going to be the most successful year yet at 2024. We had highest revenue she's done, which obviously would equal the highest gross profit she would have ever made. But a couple of weeks ago, we had that tropical storm come through, and her largest event was supposed to be happening that Tuesday and Wednesday. It would have represented a third of her revenue for the entire year, which is a third of the profit. And as she's standing on site with the client, uh, trying to logistically figure out how we're going to start setting things up and doing things earlier, the client comes up and says, "Hey, Jess, I'm so sorry, but we're going to cancel the event." And as you can imagine, it was a sort of punch in the gut, and a bit of a spiral. She come home just sort of upset and defeated. On top of that, she's 6 months pregnant, so she's got a lot kind of going on anyway. And she's like, "Is God trying to give me a message? He's trying to tell me I'm not supposed to be doing events. Am I going in the wrong direction? Am I focusing on the wrong things?" And she's just, "How are we going to pay our bills? How are we going to do this? How we're going to do that?" And kind of reminded me of COVID. But I knew on that Sunday that she was leaving for Orlando to go to IMC, an International Maxwell Conference, and where she is a certified speaker and coach through John Maxwell system, which came from COVID, me handing her that little book. And I thought this is perfect timing. She needs that getaway, just sort of, have people kind of pour into her and the whole event sort of pour into her. And she come back and a lot of lessons learned that she'd kind of gotten far from, leadership and her center. And, she learned a lot of great stuff then. Well, even before the tropical storm came, the weeks before that, we had a ton of rain here in Myrtle Beach. And of course, the tropical storm brought even more rain. And on our back patio, we had this little water table thing that her mom will bring the grandkids over, our niece and nephew, and they'll play out there in this water table. And but during these weeks of rain and during the tropical storm, it magically had developed all these tadpoles. And my wife loves frogs. She loves them for whatever reason. She just loves them. And she will go out there and she'd look at these frogs and watch them for a few minutes or a couple times a day. She just would come back and how much she's enjoying watching these little tadpoles grow. Well, this, past week, as you can imagine, there's been pretty much nothing but sun. So it's been sun, it's been hot. And this past Sunday at church, it was a great, I thought it was the message she needed to hear. And it was basically like, God will provide. You may be lost, you may be in the wilderness, but He always provides for His people. And I just thought, man, this is exactly what she needs to be hearing right now. She's kind of forgot this message that it's not up to her, it's not her will, it's God's will. Well, we get home and no, we go to lunch and we get home. I do a couple things around the house and I go visit my grandmother for a few hours and come back. Like that evening, she's laying in bed, kind of watching TV, and I'm sitting on the couch, and she comes in there, and she's like, today at church, when the message like, like God will provide and stuff, I felt he was trying to send me a message about the tadpoles. The honest truth. I thought he was trying to tell me that I need to go out and get some fresh water in this water table because there hasn't been any fresh water. And I think they're running out of food and they're running out of oxygen, and that I need to save them. She goes, so like I got a bunch of fresh water and I dumped in there. And I said, where'd you get it? She goes, I got it out of the faucet. She's, but that's been hours ago. And I went back out there and looked and they're not moving. I think they're dead. And I said, well, babe, they might not be dead. Like they're cold blooded, they're cold blooded. You may hit them with something that's a colder than they were in, and they just slowed them down. We'll check them in the morning. So then that later, I kind of go lay in bed. We're watching one last show before we fall asleep. And of course, last night it downpours. It rains, it's thundering and lightning. Wake up in the morning, I go out, let the dogs out. I look down there, their tadpoles aren't moving. I still think they're just shocked. I still think they're cold. And I come back in and she goes, did you look at the tadpoles? I was like, yeah, babe. She goes, are they moving? I said, not yet. She goes, I did it again. I was like, what do you mean? She goes, I made it about me. I thought I was the one that's going to save the tadpoles. And if I would have just left them alone, God was going to provide them with a night full of rain and they were going to be fine. But I had to interdict and I had to put myself in there. I had to make it about myself again. And she goes, am I doing that with the business? And I was like, yeah, baby, I think you're kind of doing that with the business again. So I hope the story kind of made sense. It's very interesting that we very much can make things about ourselves, that we can kind of lose focus that, if it's his will, like he will provide. We have a phenomenal story through COVID of just time after time after time again, him providing for us. And even living through it, we all have to be reminded. I think this was a time that she had to kind of be reminded that he's got it all taken care of, guys. Like he has a plan. Like, he has gifted all of us with specific skills. If we just utilize those to the best of our ability, like it's all going to be good. Like we're not the savior, he is. So I hope you have a great day.